Hello, everyone, and welcome to our January 2026 Garden Chat with Unity Gardens. I'm Marlene Smith, President of Wild Ones Chesapeake Bay. We're located in Southern Maryland, and Wild Ones Chesapeake Bay is deeply rooted in native plants and cultivating partnerships. We have been described as a fast-moving chapter, connecting people and native plants for a healthy planet through our shared passion to educate, advocate, and collaborate to support the Wild Ones' vision of native plants and natural landscapes thriving in every community. Before we hear from our guest speakers this evening, I have a brief introduction to Wild Ones. For those of you new to Wild Ones, we're a national nonprofit membership organization based in Wisconsin that works to connect people and native plants for a healthy planet. There are currently 99 chapters and 43 seedlings in 36 states. If you're not a Wild Ones member, I encourage you to join your local chapter. In Maryland, we have 5 chapters: Wild Ones Chesapeake Bay in Southern Maryland, Delmarva on the Eastern Shore, Greater Baltimore, Greater Frederick, and Nation's Capital Region. And when you go into the Wild Ones website to join and put in your zip code, it will give you a suggestion for the chapter closest to you. But you're welcome to check out any of the chapters and join whichever one you feel more comfortable with. Wild Ones Chesapeake Bay currently has 71 active members and growing, and our members include 5 businesses and 3 nonprofits. And from this chart, you can see our distribution among the 5 counties in the Southern Maryland region. The mission of Wild Ones is to promote native landscapes through education, advocacy, and collaborative action, and comes to life through the grassroots efforts of local Wild Ones chapters like ours. Through a variety of educational programs and resources, Wild Ones shares the simple message that a healthy planet starts with native plants. Wild Ones inspires change through shared core values, including respect and inclusion for all. We share evidence-based information to fuel our action and growth. I am excited to have with us tonight several representatives from Unity Gardens to introduce us to Unity Gardens, selecting native plants for our gardens, and to share information on applying for either a Unity Gardens grant or a Chesapeake Bay Trust mini grant. We have Pat Mitchell, who is past president of Unity Gardens. She is an Annapolitan and Baywise gardener. She is a retired law librarian who enjoys master gardener projects, crafts, reading, travel, and learning about our local ecology and sustainable agriculture. She believes in the Unity Gardens mission that each of us really can make a difference by landscaping wisely and working together. We also have Mary Yee, a new board member who is a native plant enthusiast, Baywise master gardener, and volunteer with Providence of Maryland's greenhouse team. She was a Unity Gardens grant recipient for her HOA in 2024. And finally, we have Richard Hergenroeder, president of Unity Gardens, who is a professional engineer with firms that serve the environmental and energy sectors. Richard is part of Unity Gardens because it provides incentive for homeowners associations and faith communities to create habitat for pollinators. Richard believes these grants have a multiplier effect among the many members of these communities. All right, you take it away.
Okay, well, good evening, and thank you for listening to our presentation about Unity Gardens and our grant program. My name is Pat Mitchell, and I'm on the volunteer on the board of Native Gardens. We're a small Anne Arundel County nonprofit that has funded over 700 native gardens in the past 20 years. We have an active board of directors who reviews the applications and does most of the work of the organization. We're not a membership organization, and I just mentioned that because we just heard about your organization, which is a little different. We do most of the work on the board, and we have a part-time executive director who helps us. Grants are awarded to diverse community groups to plant native gardens that promote cleaner air and water for the Chesapeake Bay, reduce runoff, foster thriving ecosystems, and create natural beauty. We are very enthused about our mission to empower and educate Anne Arundel communities to plant one native garden at a time. So we want to help our applicants in every way we can to understand that native plants improve our environment and can solve their landscape problems. The native plants, and I know many of you know this already, have deep roots that hold the soil together and control runoff to stop erosion. They provide nectar and seeds and shelter for birds, bees, and butterflies. And important to many people, they reduce the yard work of mowing and watering. So we also want our applicants and our grantees to understand that this enhances your community working on a project and getting a grant. Community members have all kinds of different skills. Some might enjoy writing the grant. Some might be plant people and can give advice on the right plants for the location. Some might have artistic skills and can draw a scheme of the plan. Some might enjoy working on the budget. And so we want to emphasize that this is a way to bring your community together by everybody contributing what they can contribute. And of course, a lot of people just want to get out there and start planting, and that's good too. So this is a project that the whole community can enjoy season after season, and they can see the fruits of their efforts, and that's what we want to encourage. Our grant application is straightforward. We have a website, and we try to post all the information necessary to write the grant on the website. This also is an opportunity for people to learn how to write a grant application. We give samples of the description. We give samples of all the parts of the application. We give them samples of the budget. Samples of drawings that would be the sketches of their gardens. And we give them an opportunity to ask questions along the way, so that when they submit their grant, it's basically ready to go. And then the board of directors reviews it and makes decisions on the grants. So what are our grants? Our grants this year are going to be 3 sizes. Traditionally, we've had standard grants of up to $1,000, and people have utilized those for trees, shrubs, perennials, including grasses. We started a few years ago what we call a super grant of $3,000 for just trees and shrubs, because we want to encourage people to get them in the ground. They might last longer than 100 perennials, and they do a lot for the environment. So we really want to emphasize that need, and they cost more, so it's a higher grant. We're starting now a new grant of $2,000 for meadow planting, and we're excited about this and think this is going to be interesting because there's this great lose the lawn movement now, and this will allow people to plant a meadow instead of a lawn, or a space that maybe doesn't have much in it at all, and try their hand at meadow planting. So that's the size of our grants. So who do we fund? We fund all sorts of community and homeowner associations. So a community can be a loose community of a group of people in a community that says, hey, we just got to tackle this area and remove these invasives and plant some good native plants. Or it could be an HOA, which is a little more of a formal organization. And there are lots of HOAs with problems because sometimes developers leave them with issues that need to be corrected, and they have the desire to correct those. Lots of stormwater management issues, especially. So we have lots of HOAs who apply. Schools apply, and it's usually the parent-teacher association that applies for the school, because the parent-teacher association is the community that is going to be responsible for the grant. Schools often want to have a pollinator garden. They want to have native plants to show the kids some science lessons based on their plants, life cycles, explain, pollination. It's a great opportunity for schools to enhance their school property and provide lessons for the kids. We have lots of religious congregations, and we're very pleased about religious applicants because they often feel that they already have a green team in place and feel that they have a mission to be stewards of the land, and they have often large amount of property and lots of runoff issues because they have parking lots with asphalt. So we really want to encourage religious organizations. We have a community and civic groups such as garden clubs and scout groups. Garden clubs are doing a lot of community service by tackling an area such as a library. We have a great example of that, the Severna Park Library, where a garden club has adopted it and gotten several grants and removed invasives, and it's turned most of the property now into a wonderful native garden, and has labeled the plants so that passersby can look at them and say, oh, I'd like to plant that in my yard. And so garden clubs have a lot of interesting projects. There's a Baltimore and Annapolis trail, bike and hike trail that one of them has adopted to plant a native garden, and lots of other interesting examples. So we also fund projects in public parks and recreation areas. And again, there are various communities that apply for the grant to do that. We've got a big garden called Quiet Waters in Annapolis, and the watershed stewards have applied for a grant to do some very interesting work in Quiet Waters. We have museums and historical sites. One of the historical sites and museums is down south. You might have heard of it as the Captain Avery Maritime Museum, and they have gotten a grant to plant a rain garden and do some other native plantings. So some of these are partnerships with other environmental groups. I happen to mention Watershed Stewards. Watershed Stewards have a capstone project, and they often need funds to complete their capstone project and apply to Unity Gardens for a grant to do that. And there are master gardeners who have a specific project and need funds for the planting. They do the maintenance and planting, and they get the plant funds from Unity Gardens. So there are lots of other qualified nonprofits, and that's our audience, is nonprofits. We fund native garden projects in community spaces, and 80% of the funds needs to go for plant material. And I'll give you an example. If you get $1,000 grant, you may spend 20% of that for soil conditioners, compost, deer cages, some other expenditures for the sustainability of the garden, but 80% of the funds need to be for plant material. The plants need to be all native, of course, and native to the Maryland Coastal Plains ecoregion. And we're very excited about the state, the Extension Service coming out with the Coastal Plains plant list, as they have done with the Piedmont area, because that'll make it really straightforward, for lots of people, I think, to find the plants that they need. So we like projects that are highly visible to the community, because we want to educate the community and have people walk by and say, gosh, this is interesting. I didn't know native plants could be so lovely. It's not all grasses. There's a lot of variety, and see seasonal interest too. And so we like that education and demonstration value. We also especially like projects that address habitat loss, erosion, and stormwater runoff. Again, this is a great example for people to see what the value of native plants is and how they can use them themselves. And then, of course, we think that community involvement is just great for the community, and that's what our mission is too, is involving the community in native plant projects. Okay, I'd like to turn it over to Mary, and if you have questions about Unity Gardens, we can address those at the end too. Mary?
Yeah, just unmuting myself. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about native plants. So what is a native plant? For us, it's basically a naturally occurring plant in our Maryland coastal plain ecoregion, pre-colonists, before, European settlement. And using native plants in your landscape can definitely help the bay. Our plants are adapted to our local soil, climate, and geology, which basically makes up this Maryland coastal plain ecoregion. And we basically are thinking about right plant, right place, that these plants have adapted natural defenses to damaging pests and diseases, and that our native plants with the deep and fibrous roots can help reduce stormwater runoff, recharge groundwater, our aquifers, and sequester carbon. And a lot of my focus is going to be now on supporting wildlife habitat, like our shy garden friends and this box turtle, an omnivore who's eating not only plants, but insects as well, and beneficial predators like our eastern-eyed click beetle and the ladybug beetle, which are voracious consumers of soft-bodied insects, like for the ladybug beetles, aphids in particular, and the click beetle, it's going to be larvae, like fly larvae and other insect larvae. And then our generalist here, this orb weaver spider, who it looks like is eating a praying mantis, which is maybe not such a bad thing. Because in my yard, it might not necessarily be a native praying mantis. So native plants provide nectar, which is basically the food, the go-to for butterflies and bees as adults. And this is a Joe Pye seed, which gets a lot of visitors in my yard. And pollen, which is the primary food source of larvae for all of our native bees. I see a lot of action on my smooth hydrangea. I don't know if you guys have looked at the Mount Cuba trials, but this has halo. I know it's a cultivar, but it had a lot of action at the Mount Cuba trials. And leaves, basically our food for all of our Lepidoptera, our moth and butterfly caterpillars, as well as this ladybug beetle, who could either be looking for aphids on her own or her to be laying eggs, and her voracious larva that will eat all of those oleander aphids. And berries for birds, especially this time of year. You might see them, this is late summer, but like these berries are holding off into the fall on really cold days like today, when the birds need something to eat. And seeds for our bird friends too. And woody stems for our cavity nesting bees. So I think approximately 30% of our Maryland native bees nest in cavities, which are either hollow stems like we see here, or existing wood cavities made by beetles. So Maryland's home to over 2,700 butterfly and moth species, and their larvae most of our butterflies larvae can feed only on plants that they've co-evolved with. And right down here at the bottom, you see this sweet Luna moth who doesn't actually have any mouth parts because it doesn't eat as an adult. But this Luna moth needs a birch, hickory, sweet gum, tupelo, walnut, or persimmon to be able to lay her eggs on for them to be able to thrive. And I was shocked to find out that only approximately 1 to 2% of all Lepidoptera eggs ever survive into adulthood, which is a crazy statistic. So our plants co-evolved with our native insects. Most of our butterflies, butterfly and moth larvae can feed only on plants that they evolved with. And so like milkweed here contains compounds that make it toxic to so many other species. And it's basically the ability to have, to be able to consume and thrive like this monarch caterpillar. So milkweed is host to other specialists. I think we all think about these monarch caterpillars as being the only creatures that consume milkweed, when here we have these tussock moths were on the same milkweed plants as that poor caterpillar larva was. And I kind of had to like shoo some of them away so that they would leave some. So there are other insects that are specialists on this milkweed as well. So our Maryland oak trees are host to over 500 moth and butterfly species here in Maryland. And again, it's this idea that these butterflies and moths who are able to evolve to be able to digest the tannins in the oak leaves. So it seems like that if you were to have the space and you wanted to support biodiversity, you could plant an oak tree and get a lot of work done. Doug Tallamy has said that a clutch of chickadees requires approximately 5,000 caterpillars to survive just for that one clutch, which is I think, kind of crazy. That's how we get to that only 1% of those eggs ever survive to adulthood. 96% of our terrestrial birds feed their young insects, and the caterpillars are the dominant food item in their diet. But then there are other plants that are host plants. So here we have an adult hummingbird moth, and as an adult, it's sipping on this phlox, but it's laying its eggs on our native honeysuckle. Some of the other host plants for the hummingbird moth is viburnum, dogwoods, hawthorn, and carrion plum. There are host plants for native bees too. And I have a sweet spot for native bees. And in particular, a sunflower is one of the keystone species for supporting our native bees, which we'll get to in a second. So Maryland native bees, we have approximately 450 native bees. And, I think we all know on this group that honeybees are not one of them. And approximately 30% of our native bees are pollen specialists, which means that their larvae can only survive by consuming pollen from their specialist host plant from a particular species, family, and some genus. So if you think about it, the closer you're getting to being a specialist on a species, you have less opportunities. So I try and find species dependent plants to put in my yard to make myself feel better, like I'm doing something for nature. So here's an example. Spring Beauty, Claytonia virginica, is host to a pollen specialist, and it has, first of all, this spectacular pink pollen and the pink nectar guides in the flower. So this flower opens when it knows its pollen specialist is available, which is basically nice weather, not too windy, not raining, and it closes up when there's bad weather and before it gets dark. And because this minor bee is not out there flying in all this adverse weather, and even though other bees could try to pollinate the spring beauty, it would prefer to have its specialist because it's a more effective pollinator. And here's another situation of an effective pollinator, and this is with our native hibiscus. It has a bumblebee mimic, so looks like a bumblebee, but it's not. And it is, this hibiscus is the host plant for this pollen specialist and its larva. So my recommendation is to consider using keystone native plants. Keystone plant is basically a powerhouse plant that's critical to the food web, like we saw with oak trees for moths and butterflies. Bees have keystone species as well. This list is created by the National Wildlife Federation, but they took the information from Doug Tallamy and his researchers, as well as Jared Fowler, who's a native bee expert. And they show on this list who you're supporting. Is it a butterfly, moth, or is it a bee? Some could be supporting both. So for bees, some of the keystone species for bees are sunflowers, asters, goldenrods, blueberries, and willow. And willow in particular, because it's one of the earliest bloomers and can help out so many really hungry, emerging queen bees and other insects that need either some pollen or nectar. The notion that the reason also why these are powerhouse plants is that for those who are specialists in the family or genus, these can take care of so many of those pollen specialists because there's so many options, so broad. So you can support wildlife and reduce stormwater runoff at the same time. Next. We recommend you try to use straight species natives when possible, because cultivars are attractive to us, not necessarily always attractive to pollinators. Some cultivars have just been altered too much, where the shape of the flower has been altered, which affects pollen and nectar availability. So here on the left is a smooth hydrangea Annabelle, and it's absolutely gorgeous, but it's pretty much sterile. There could be some nectar on there, but it's really not anything that a pollinator is looking for. And on the right, the leaf color has been altered. This is a 9-bark Diablo, and the leaves have been changed from green to burgundy, and they have basically made this plant so that no moth or butterflies larva could ever eat up those leaves and survive. So we try to avoid cultivars, but not all cultivars aren't bad. It's just that we try to stick with straight species. If a cultivar has something spectacular going for it, like it keeps down powdery mildew, or that's all you can find, you do what you can do. Another recommendation is to think about flowers of various shapes and sizes, because pollinators have different length tongues, as well as uh, um, butterflies and moths tend to stand on their flowers, and bees are kind of holding on, clinging. Kind of just depends on the bee and depends on the flower. Now, the one flower I can type that I am missing from this series of photos is I'm missing a tubular flower. So just try to think about different pollinators, different tongue lengths, and different needs. Try to provide successive blooms. So if you can offer continuous blooms throughout the seasons, you'll be able to handle any kind of a pollinator's need. I think about native bees in particular, where they aren't all emerging in the spring. Some bees could even have two different like broods coming out, and some are spring, summer, and fall emergers. So if you have them all covered with like the willow in the spring, Virginia sweetbriar, and clethra, which I just think are such great companion plants, and then witch hazel in the fall, you really have some seasons covered there. And then large swaths. Uh, um, you might want to start out small and see what succeeds in your garden. But generally speaking, pollinators, they want to be able to really see where they're going, and they want to come back. And I think about it as repeat customers. And then it's also, if it's a I'm always thinking bees, sorry. But they basically leave scents behind, and then other bees can realize, like where a good place to go is for some nectar or pollen. Next. So my motto is plant more, mulch less. Let the plants do the hard work for you so that they can spread and then be your green mulch. Our website at communitygardens.org has some great resources for you. Now, not everybody is going to be so interested in our Anne Arundel County native plant list from our forester, but that's available. And nativeplantcenter.net is an awesome tool to use. It's basically the information from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Native Plants Wildlife Habitat Chesapeake Bay Watershed. And it's, interactive. You put in your region, what type of plant you're looking for, and your different conditions, and it can actually give you a list. And this is the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay created this nativeplantcenter.net tool, which I think is terrific. You saw earlier the Fish and Wildlife, the National Wildlife Federation Keystone Plant site, which I think is terrific. And then we also have here the Maryland's Best, which is the state of Maryland basically, coming out and saying, these are what our native plants are here in Maryland. But really, we're all looking forward to that Maryland Native Plant Guide for the coastal plain that comes out from the Extension, DNR, and the Maryland Native Plant Society, where I think we're all going to have a lot. We're going to need to use less resources to figure out what's really in the Maryland coastal plain, and we can plant and be successful in our planting. So plant natives. And now I'm going to turn it over to Richard.
Hey, thanks, Mary, and thank you, Pat. I always learn so much, and I have to take all these notes all the time because I was a civil engineer all my life. It's all concrete, steel, and clay and things like that. So when I retired, I moved back to Maryland, and I've gained a lot of experience, and thanks to folks like you. Um, so our application process, before I get into the application process, I need to teach you some practical things. I don't have the skills of Mary and Pat. I don't have their knowledge. I'm good at digging holes is my primary occupation these days, and putting plants in those holes. I move the mulch, and I also budget and plan. So when you're planning, I heard the word soil today and this evening, and I heard the stormwater, water goes downhill. So before you get going, ask yourself, and by the way, 80% of lawsuits on civil engineering projects are the result of poor planning and communications. That has nothing to do with the drawings or what people are thinking. It's because folks didn't plan and talk about it up front. So I've had some bad garden experiences. And know your soil, know your shade, know your sun, how much sun you're getting. If you've got a slope, please be aware of any erosion that might be occurring. That's all going to affect your plants. For example, I've helped people in dozens of projects, and my needs at my personal project at church, we have a flower farm. So what do you do with a flower farm? Well, I need to have the colors of the flowers be compatible with the liturgical calendar. That's really tough to do, but we were able to pull that off. Sandy soil's really sunny, and that's the way it goes. So I got big, hardy faced plants that can take lots of summer sun and in a dry spot. And meanwhile, on my property, I bought a decrepit house on a fantastic property facing the water, steep slope. So that's a low-growth sumac to control the slope. Inkberry, sea myrtle, all of those things are controlling water that moves on and off my property several times a year. The previous owner cut turf, a short turf. And this was before I understood what I was doing. I just stopped cutting grass. People asked me what I was doing, and I said, well, let's wait a couple of years and find out. So here we are. The application process, Unity Gardens, when I came here and I started learning about how to fund these things, I view the Unity Gardens application process in two ways: as a starter, and also for a mature garden club that just needs supplemental plant material for their site. So as a starter, a friend in the neighborhood wanted to do something. I said, you better start out with Unity Gardens first before you go to the $60,000 job. Well, guess what? That person, she did exactly that. She had her $1,000 plat, and Karen Royer, who's on this call, what a great introduction to Unity Gardens that was with her. But since that time, this person has moved on to plant 178 trees and remove probably 4 or 5 acres of invasive plants. So that was a $60,000 project. So thank you, Unity Gardens, for igniting that effort in my town. So there's some good examples of what Unity Gardens fits. I'm not going to say any more. There you can see the link there and copy that. It's a really easy one to fill out. It's very easy. Here's some examples of the many hundreds and hundreds of Unity Gardens projects. This is for a church. You don't need a drafts person or a fancy CAD machine to do these drawings. Here's a simple sketch, and people are just dropping down and inserting photos to demonstrate what they're doing. There's not a lot of narrative with some of these things. There's no need for your application to include more than 10 pages. The application itself is 2 pages, name, rank, and serial number, photos, and sketches. And the pass rate is very high. I like that part of this application. Another example, this is a homeowners association, another nonprofit, and they decided to plant lots of trees and shrubs. I worked on a project in a homeowners association last fall. Lots of shrubs, Unity Garden shrubs, financed this for a swale, and looks fantastic. So yeah, details, who, what, when, where, how. And you should have all these answers in your head because you're a good planner and you figured all this out and you know the soil type, you know where the sun is, and you know why you're putting these plants in there. Photos are easy to collect and just drop and drag those photos in there. I I did my first sketch and it looked like a crayon cartoon, but it passed. It was great. Sometimes people find landscape architects to help them out, but these are small things. Oh, a maintenance plan, about a page long for the maintenance plan. Don't say, oh, we're going to water it when it gets dry. No, you have to have a regular schedule. So at church, I'm out there at least once a week pulling weeds for 10 minutes. It only takes me 10 minutes on a drive-by. And during droughts, I'm out there twice a week watering. So you need to have that kind of detail in there. About a page for that. Oh, and the template for the budget is very, very easy to use compared to other templates I've seen. And the property owner letter of support has to be in there too. In my case, it was the church pastor saying yes. And in my friend's case, it was her homeowners association, homeowners association saying yes as well, the president of that organization. So it's easy. These things turn around very quickly. When the application window closes, we have a window in the spring and in the summer. You'll find out when your check is coming about 30 days or 45 days later. It goes very quickly. If you want us to help you, prepare the application, let us know. If you want us to dig with you, let me know. And but if I show up or one of our people show up, we're gonna take lots of photos because we like photos. Oh, the Chesapeake Bay Trust is another opportunity for you. And this is one of my first grant opportunities that I went through, and I learned a big lesson. I can't pick my species from all those booklets that Mary was showing you. You have to choose from what's available. So in my case, I use three different sources, one in Baltimore City, one in Baltimore County, but another in Arnold, Maryland. Providenceofmaryland.org has become my favorite because they gear themselves up for people like us who want natives and perennials, and they're ready for us. And they publish their plant list, and I can get plugs for $1.80 each. And that's a good deal. I really like that. I don't know the Southern County very well. I grew up in Baltimore City, sorry. But I understand ChesapeakeNatives.org and BonaterraDC.com also publish their price list. So you'll know what's available in your planning. You can switch out plants later on after your budget and you get approved, just as long as they're natives. We realize the stock changes over the period of 2 or 3 months, but focus on those nurseries that publish availability and their price list on their webpage. There you go. So I mentioned that we're available to assist you. You might call Mary because she has the shortest last name. So thank you very much for your time. This is wonderful. As you heard earlier, we funded hundreds of projects, and I'm an old-fashioned civil engineer. I like a good return on my investment, and Unity Gardens does that. I'm very happy to be part of it, and I'm learning a great deal with all the people I work with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard, Pat, Patricia, and Mary. This was really interesting this evening. And now we'll open it up for questions. Are there any questions in the chat? Bill or Sue, have you been monitoring the chat?
Yeah. There was only one and it got answered. About the bumblebee mimic.
Okay. So,
Looks like Mary has her hand up.
I have a question, and that is Richard mentioned a place, I thought you said in Baltimore County or Baltimore City. that where you ended up getting plants for under $2 each. What was the name of that place? I didn't
Well,
recognize.
Providence of Maryland has plugs for $1.80. They're in Arnold, Maryland,
Oh,
just
Arnold.
north of Route 50. Baltimore City has Hergenroeder Nursery. I volunteered there 2 years. That's my kid neighborhood, so I had to repay the old neighborhood. They have a plant list, and they're a good reference for you because they have retail prices and they compare well with all the retailers out there, and they're first-class people who run the place. They're all natives. And if you have a really gigantic project, there is a commercial wholesaler, but you better have a large need. Babacow in Baltimore County is excellent and they deliver.
I just want to say, is it only in the state of Maryland for the grant, or is it anywhere in the United States?
Unity Gardens is for Anne Arundel County, and the other one is CB Trust. You'll have to go to their site. They have many grant types. The mini community is their starter grant. It goes up to $5,000, and it's a little different from Unity Gardens because it allows you to put a little sidewalk and buy some piping or a weir or something like that. So it's just not native. You can do a little civil engineering on the side. And when you get your feet wet with it, and they also have West Virginia, and they do a lot of work up in, I used to live up near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You want $40,000, they've got a grant for that. You want $500,000, they've got a grant for that as well.
Thank you very much for confirming that. I was interested for a person who's in a HOA in Florida, but she also lives in Maryland, but she's probably Calvert County, but she's part-time in Florida, and she's helps with a HOA there. So I'm just asking for that purpose. Thank
Every
you.
state's do it a little different. I did a market study of South Carolina for my brother-in-law last year. I don't know what he's done with that though.
Very good. Thank you. Good presentation.
All right, we'll wrap up here with a few Wild Ones chapter updates. This Saturday, if you're in the area, Mount Rainier Nature Center is hosting a seed swap, and Wild Ones Chesapeake Bay will be there giving out free native seeds. There's also a winter sowing workshop occurring that day at the same place. So I encourage you, if you're in the area, to stop by and see us. Wild Ones Chesapeake Bay is very active in advocacy. Along with the other 4 chapters in Maryland, we're advocating to make May Maryland Native Plant Month. And with us tonight to speak about this initiative is Mary Ellen Pease. So Mary Ellen, would you like to take the floor?
Just a little background is this initiative was started by a national organization called the Garden Clubs of America, and we have clubs in the state of Maryland. And we are attempting to get a native plant month established in every state. So far, this started in 22, and then by 2025, we had 44 proclamations, but 11 of them had been converted into law, which unfortunately, a proclamation, in order for it to be permanent, has to go through the whole legislative process. So it's a bit of work. And we did it last year. We tried. I'm new to this effort, but or this process. And apparently the committees we have to go through, well, we've done it different this year. So I'm just going to skip ahead to this year. This year, we're going to present it in the House of Delegates in what is now a new committee. We call it GLEE, Government, Labor, and Elections, I believe. It was the former HDO that Pena, the new Speaker of the House, ran before she was the new Speaker of the House. So things are a little shook up there, and we're just trying to stay apprised of what's going on. And the whole point is to do everything that you all are doing. It's the way to change behavior is if people don't know about something, they're never going to change the behavior. And you would think that that would be a simple sell. This is a bill that promotes native plants, but it has no cost. It doesn't cost the government anything. So there are no mandates involved. It's just sort of an easy win-win bill. But what it will do is educate the public about the importance of native plants, which you are doing a beautiful job of. But it would occur every month of May in Maryland. And we started out doing it as an April proclamation, but we got feedback from the nurseries that it would make more sense in Maryland to make it May because there's just not enough native plant inventory available in April, and they are late, tend to be later in the season bloomers. There's a few, but not much. So, and what we have found is that making a permanent Maryland Native Plant Month gives nursery owners and growers and other businesses that are involved the confidence to grow the inventory, which, as we know, does not just take overnight. You need to plan, and so that would be the benefit of it. And but we have faced a few hurdles. And first of all, we introduced it last year for the first time. It was one of the most difficult budget years I think we've ever had because of so many federal cuts. So we're trying to, we have it cross-filed. So we have a representative in the House and a representative in the Senate, both at the same time working on the bill. We don't know when the hearing will be yet. But our challenge, our biggest challenge, I believe, will be in the House of Representatives again, because they're not keen on commemorative months. So we have had to make a very strong case that this bill is not just good for our environment, which you would think would be so important, but it's an economic driver for our businesses, because our goals are to keep business local, and the governor has stated that initiative to develop jobs of the future. And honestly, before, I've grown native plants for a long time, been involved, but I had no idea of the workhorses they really are when it comes to stormwater and gray infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure and or green and best management practices, how they're being used on farms. I just call them superpowered tools. But so you get to know about it, you're not going to understand and appreciate that. So we would love to have people support. Our goal is to establish support, show support to these folks from throughout the entire state of Maryland. This is not a bipartisan thing by any measure. And it should be fairly easy for us to do. We have several ways to reach out. And one is, if you can see in this picture, where Carrie from Wild Ones in Frederick, I got connected with her, and she graciously got us a meeting with Delegate Kerr, who is in the middle of that picture. And he is the chair of the subcommittee of the standing committee where the bill will start. So we'll have our hearing, and then it goes into the subcommittee, and Delegate Kerr is the head of that committee. So we were hoping that by reaching out to him ahead of time and letting him know why we believe this is important, not just for the environment, but for businesses and et cetera, et cetera. And I have some fact sheets that speak to all the benefits of it that we might give us a little bit of head start. Also, we do have a sponsor in the Senate, which we did not have last year. It was not or cross-filed. This year it is. So we have no idea whatsoever when the bills will be heard. You generally know 2 weeks in advance, if that. And then you have to rally your troops to do several things. Some we can do now, and that is this flyer speaks to this flyer, Help Make Every May a Maryland Native Plant Awareness Month. And what we're doing with this flyer, my goal is 2,000 signatures. We would like to demonstrate from all across Maryland that just individual people want to see this happen because they think that it is important. And the way they can do that is for one way they can do is they can scan this QR code even on their computer, actually, if they want to, and it will show a link to a Google document. And that document is called our sign-on letter of support. And it merely asks for your, I think it's name, address, zip code. Email we made optional because not everyone's comfortable with that. But the reason for the name, address, zip code is because eventually this will go to all the legislators, and we're going to sort it by counties so that they can find and see how many, a lot of their constituents support this, because if they know it's important to their constituents, they are much more likely to pay attention to you when you present. So that's one thing we're doing. We are also engaging groups to submit written testimony in favor of the bill, or individuals, either way. Unfortunately, we are very limited to in-person testimony because, well, they're only going to permit 4 or 5. And it was the same way last year. It's because of the budget problems, the constraints on everyone's time. So we'll do that. And we have people to speak. One of the gentlemen is going to speak is in this, well, several people, but in this picture with the Delegate Kerr is a fellow named Brandon with Ecoplantia, which is in Frederick, and Carrie brought him on board. He owns a native plant business where he designs templates out of paper, and he just rolls them out, and then he has the plants. And so he delivers the packages, and you just unroll the paper tarp and you plug your plants into the appropriate places. That was not an easy sentence to say. Okay. That is, so that's another way. But he was very helpful making the case that this would be good for business because it will be. A proclamation is only as good as generally it's for the year, for that particular event or month. And we've gotten them the last 3 years, but they didn't get any traction because people don't know they're coming, and so they don't plan. They can't plan around it. Schools can't plan activities, communities can't plan events, planting gardens and stuff. So it makes it a bit of a challenge. But having it as a law is very effective because it gets the same kind of attention many of these other commemorative ideas do, like Earth Day. And so we're hoping that this will pass this year. We've tried to reach out ahead of time, like by contacting Delegate Kerr. We're getting these signatures, but that's not the only thing. And then we're hoping to get more testimony. If you know anyone who might be willing to submit written testimony in support of it, an individual, an organization, anything, we would love to have that. And we have a PowerPoint that explains how to do it, and I'm always happy to help someone. And we have a fax flyer, which perhaps Marlene can help me share at some point. And it really explains all the talking points about the bill, how it's good. So I don't want you to think all I care about is the economy. It's just like, this is what I had to do to get the bill through the process, because that's just what the committee wants to hear. But in this research, I was astonished to find out what superpowers there are. The native plants have superpowers in terms of filtering pollutants from going into the bay. And that is our biggest contributor to pollution in the Chesapeake Bay and all of our waterways, is like excess nutrient, like people put nitrogen and phosphorus on their lawns, and then it doesn't, and then it just washes off into the waterways. It ends up in the bay. And then the sediment creates clouds, and it from erosion, as you were speaking to, Richard, on your slope. uh, we don't want that to happen at all, and it's important to educate people about why that is important and how to go about preventing it, because that can create clouds and cover up, block sunlight and photosynthesis from all of the plants under the water, and it basically takes all the oxygen. It it takes up all the oxygen in the water, and then the aquatic life and seaweed and crabs or whatever else is there doesn't, they don't have any oxygen, and they need it. So I have found out a little more probably than most, and I don't, but they are amazing, and I'm very committed to this, and I would love to have your support in whatever way works for your members. I think, oh, and it is also being introduced in the Senate, and it has a bill number, and I can put those bill numbers up here, or I can distribute them, maybe perhaps to this group after the meeting, so that you could see what it says. But basically, it just says the governor will declare Maryland Native Plant Month every year, every month of May in Maryland. And that's kind of it. But the purpose is to create community engagement and encourage learning activities, because we have we actually have an environmental literacy requirement now in Maryland. So it helps with that. And then, we really focus on our community groups and the congregations and the HOAs, just everything you were talking about is how this is what this bill applies to. But I'm excited. I think we have a shot this year. So we'll see how it goes. But the thing that's going to get their attention is if people contact their office, or think you can email. If it's just an individual person, we'll send out a note when it goes to the floor, and you can email them, or you can just call the office and say, this bill is going to come before you this session, and I think it's very important to raise awareness about native plants and what they do, for our economy and our businesses and our environment, and we hope that you will support it when it comes to you. That's all we can do. But I mean, you can leave messages like that. It's when you call someone's office, you often get their aide, or you'll get or you'll get voicemail. But you can say 2 sentences and then you're done. And then alternatively, you can write a very short email that says, I support this. It's coming to you soon. And when it does, it's important for this reason, and 2 sentences, and thank you. So, but it makes a difference when they hear from a lot of their constituents. It does get their attention. It's very effective. So, are there any questions? Or it dovetails so beautifully with what you all are doing, and with the grants from Unity and all that. It's a good cause.
Mary, we put all the information to get a hold of you in the chat, so people can hit that and connect with you to get more information.
That's great. I have plenty of information to share, and I look forward to sharing it. I just want to I would really like to get people whipped up, fired up, ready to go, and do this for our planet. And I just think of the kids. I'm hoping to get a lot of kids to come to the hearings. I think maybe they might feel that the committee might feel a little more inclined if they see who's going to live with the consequences if we don't restore our ecosystems for our planet.
And Mary Ellen, we will be doing some more promotion on your behalf through the chapter, as will all the other chapters in Maryland. And I want to say I'm very impressed to see the list of partners you have there on your flyer. If I counted correctly, there's at least 24, but probably more. But I just want to say you've got a lot of the heavy hitters here in Maryland, and hopefully we'll get some traction this year.
I really hope so. But you're right. We have some heavy hitters, and there's a lot of interest this year. Maybe that's the way it works. It just takes a couple years to get the traction going. But I'm very pleased with the support we have, and I do think we will have more sponsors before we find out when our hearing is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll
And when
probably be late in the House and earlier in the Senate.
And when we provide some more promotional information, we will make sure to include a link to the list of delegates and senators so people can contact people in their region.
That is the
Make
most
it more personal.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
the most effective thing someone can do, is call their
Yeah.
own legislator.
Yep.
And
All right.
what we're okay with even getting, like, people are starting to call now, and just to say this is going to come to the floor this year, and I hope you will support it. That would be, if that is whomever their legislator is, they could send an email, but we don't know the introduction date, so.
Yep. We'll try to help you get it done this year.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I'm crazy about the Wild Ones organization. Seriously, you guys do great work, and everyone's pitches in. It's wonderful. I'm very grateful for your help and your support.
Well, thank you. And let's see, what do we have next? National updates, just one, I think. There's a free webinar on February 18th, From Wasteland to Wonder, Easy Ways We Can Help Heal Earth in the Suburban and Urban Landscapes. So be sure to register for that if you're interested. You can scan the QR code there, or if someone could put the link in the chat. And with that, we will finish up with questions and answers if there are any more. I want to thank Unity Gardens for joining us this evening and for also being part of the advocates for Make May Maryland Native Plant Month.
Yes.
And if we'll follow up with the group who was here tonight with more information.
That's fantastic.
With that, I'm going to stop my share. And feel free if anyone has anything they'd like to talk about, any questions, we're here for you.
Can I ask, Mary Ellen, how many signatures did you say that you needed?
I would like to have about 2,000. We have about, I think, 700 now. It's growing suddenly, quickly, as you know, the session's out, and you all are sharing some of our social media, and I was astonished the other day when I put some on my own Facebook, which I really haven't used in many years, but I get so much feedback. And I looked at our chart, and so it only goes to me. I'm the person the few people on our committee, but who really sees who signs up. But then we're able to sort it by county. So we're, a little, we have a lot of Baltimore City and Baltimore County people. Anne Arundel's getting higher, but it actually gives us a wheel and a spoke to show us the percentages, and we can also sort it by county. So we need a little more further west and a little more further south, but we're getting there, and I'm thrilled with it so far. And I've just had all sorts of different people offer to help me out. I mean, my sister has a hair salon, and she posted on her table, and she gets her customers in that chair, and she's got a pair of scissors in her hand. Of course I'll sign up. But boy, I have a lot from Montgomery County now. Uh, but I'm grateful for any way. Uh,
I think that's great, Mary Ellen.
oh, and we have bookmarks I can always share, and signs and stuff like that. We take to events, or people will take it. Like a lot of master gardeners have taken it to tables they work or something like that, and they'll get it to us, and we'll put it in the spreadsheet. We'll do anything. I don't. The legislative process is new to me in Maryland, and it's a lot. So, but I'm happy to do it. I
Thanks
would
for
like to bring my little monarch grandson, Butterfly, to the hearing. We'll see how that goes. I'm very grateful.
Well, I think that's all we have this evening. If I could just remind folks to check the chat and perhaps take our survey. It's just a 2-question survey that asks how, what you thought of the meeting tonight. Helps us improve our meetings. There is a spot for some general comments if you want to comment. But thank you all for attending. Thank you, Unity Gardens, for presenting and for all that you do to help get more native plants in the ground. And with that, I'll say good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This
Thank
was
you,
really
Mary
great.
Ellen.
Yeah. And I learned a lot too. I'd like to hear about the
Yeah.
grant process. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.